Hey! Hey, what's going on? You should be able to hear me pretty clearly right now. This is Corbin Dauster. Corbin Dauster on x.com/Corbin Dauster. Corbin Dauster on YouTube, that's youtube.com @Corbin, Dauster. And on Kick, I am also, you guessed it, Corbin Dauster. Alright? Today, we are getting into this Israel and Iran stuff super heavy. I compiled a massive list of research topics we need to get into. I've got a bunch of videos. I've got clips. Tucker Carlson just dropped a clip, 1.5 minutes long, with Ted Cruz, where he's talking mad garbage. Watching my language for the sake of the beginning of the clip. We'll cut all that out here in a minute. Don't worry, we'll be big boys just in a couple of minutes here. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to getting into all this stuff with you. Let me take this pre-stream down. There we go. See, I got stuff up. Well, I'm going to keep this up in the corner. I got a new outfit, by the way. Those of you who've seen other streams can see that this is a totally new outfit because we're doing boots on the ground journalism. Hypothetically, like figuratively boots on the ground. Not real boots, but like PNG tuber boots. Okay? So, we got nothing going on right now. Although we do have an interesting threat. Let me see, it should be at the bottom of my bookmarks list. Here we go, we're already there. Iranian state media 4 hours ago, there's a surprise tonight that the world will remember for centuries. So this is why I'm going to keep this up in the background while we're working on all this other stuff. Let me show you this list I made with the help of ChatGPT. I even need a legend to go along with it, okay? So, we've got the red is going to be Iran, blue is Israel, yellow is US, and green is everyone else, right? Let's see, we've got some fun videos here at the bottom to go over. See, we got a hefty file here. I'm not messing around. I want to get to the bottom of this. I need to know if Trump is cringer-based for trying to do this. I want to know what to expect in the coming days. Should we be looking forward to, or not looking forward to, but expecting a boots on the ground, like actual war with Iran? Or are we just looking at some missile strikes and then the inevitable, surrender from Iran? That's what Trump's calling for currently. Do we intend to use Israel as a proxy state the same way that we did with Ukraine to fight the war with Russia that we didn't want to fight? Are we going to do the same thing with Iran and Israel? I don't like any of those for the most part. I would rather we just we have so much shit to take care of over here. We've got these riots going on. We've got too many illegals to even deport. Like, we've got a lot to go over. So I guess we'll just dive right into my list here. First things, I've got sources and everything for everything. And if you've got questions, if you've got anything to say, pop up in chat. Let me see if I can get a live. I've got sources and everything. Chat feed for X going here on the other screen. No, I don't. You guys aren't talking in there anyway. Okay, whatever. Don't worry about it. So let me just get out of this. Here we go. So if you guys have anything going on, comment on Kick and YouTube. I'll be able to see that. It'll pop up in the bottom of the screen here. But I want to get into this stuff right now. So we're going to start with the first topic here. We have on first provocation was Iran-led, as far as our list is concerned, in January 28th of 2024. So over a year ago, or over a year ago now. Tower 22 drone strike with 3 U.S. troops killed in action. Okay, so Reuters has this story here. Let's take a look. 3 U.S. Leave me alone. I'm not going to support you. All right, so we got Biden here talking, so that's great. We love that. He's going to fumble. We won't stand for this. Damn you, Iran. Pakistan. 3 U.S. troops killed in Jordan. Drone strike linked to Iran. So this isn't exactly confirmed, it sounds like. Let's take a look. 3 U.S. service members were killed and at least 34 wounded. Holy shit, that's a big attack. And it was a drone attack by Iran-backed militants on U.S. troops in northeast Jordan. Hold on, let me shut my door here. All right. Near the Syrian border, President Joe Biden and U.S. officials said on Sunday it is the first deadly strike against the U.S. forces since Israel-Hamas war erupted in October and marks a major escalation in tensions that have engulfed the Middle East. All right. Reuters Daily Briefing newsletter provides all the new... Oh, I don't care about that. Come on, they got me! These sons of bitches. Let's watch this video really quick. Let me shut my audio down here for the music. Let's check this out.
We in my church have taken the 21st Psalm. I want to point out that we had a tough day last night in the Middle East. We lost 3 brave souls in an attack on one of our bases.
Yeah.
And I'd ask you to come in silence for all 3 of those fallen souls. And we shall respond. God bless you all. Thank you for allowing me to be here. And I wish we didn't have to go. Thank you all so very, very much.
Jeez, okay. So did we respond? Did we respond? All right, so this is Biden's statements. Let's get the music back on because we don't want to be boring stream. Let's get the music back on now. All right, these are his statements. We shall respond. All right, U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin echoed that threat. He and other senior officials debriefed Biden earlier in the day on the attack. At least 34 personnel were injured in the attack, but that number is expected to change as more people seek care. According to a statement from U.S. Central Command, 8 personnel were evacuated from Jordan for higher level care but are in stable condition. 2 U.S. officials said the drone struck near the barracks early evening, and which could explain the high number of casualties. Oh, look at that, guys. We got our first bot on Kick today. We love it. We love the bots. They're here to improve the views. Thank you for being a bot in chat. That's great. Let's see. 34 personnel were injured, but that number is expected to change as more people seek care. According to a statement from U.S. Central Command, 8 personnel were evacuated from Jordan for higher level care. 2 U.S. officials said the drone struck near the barracks early in the morning, which could explain the high number of casualties. The Islamic Resistance in Iraq, an umbrella organization of hardline Iran-backed militant groups, claimed that attacks on 3 bases, including one in Jordan-Syria border. So what they're talking about here is the, I think it's the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, right? IRG. That's only part of it. The rest is like CA or something. I forget the rest. But that's what they're talking about. And we're going to get into that a little bit more later. It's on our list. The reason why is because the Houthis, Hamas, and several other terrorist groups in the region are basically just Iran. Okay? They're part of the IRGC, and we're going to get into all that stuff too, because that matters to the equation here. They've been provoking Israel for a while now, many, many, many years. Now, that's not to say, look, I'm not taking Israel's side or anything like that. We're going to get into all that stuff. I want to remain neutral because I have a hunch, and I'm hoping it'll get proven true, that Israel is trying to drag us into a war, and I don't care how good, quote unquote, of allies that they are. I am not interested in spilling a single drop of American blood in a foreign country for a very long time. We've got too much shit going on over here, and we were overseas for too long. I'm not interested in that at all, okay? After that, April 13th, 2024, Iran fires hundreds of drones and missiles at Israel. Retaliation for the Damascus consulate hit. Then where is it? That's not on my list, the Damascus consulate hit. So let's take a look at, let's see if we can find that. Okay, so give me 1 second. Let's see if we can find that. Israel, Damascus consulate attack. There it is. Boom. All right. Let's go with AP. Israeli strike on Iran's consulate in Syria killed 2 generals and 5 other officers, Iran says. Is this just a whole lot of standing around? Oh, shit. So this was pretty crazy. This was pretty crazy. Okay, so I'm fairly certain before we even get into let's actually just read this. Okay, so Damascus, Syria. An Israeli strike that demolished Iran's consulate in Syria on Monday killed 2 Iranian generals and 5 officers, according to Iranian officials. The strike appeared to signify an escalation of Israel's targeting of military officials from Iran, which supports militant groups fighting Israel in Gaza and along its border with Lebanon. Since the war in Gaza began nearly 6 months ago, clashes have increased between Israel and Iran-backed Hezbollah, militants based in Lebanon, Hamas, which rules Gaza and attacked on Israel on October 7th, is also backed by Iran. Fun fact for Hassan fans out there, his dad helped fund that attack there. Pretty sure that's how that went. I'm just gonna slander him for no reason. I have no idea even if that's true, but I'm just gonna say it because I fucking hate that guy. Allegedly. So let's see. Now we've got, this is blue, so it's in Israel. So we have a Mossad covert campaign. Oh, this is a Damascus strike. It just is out of order. Okay, great. We skipped ahead. So the Damascus strike happens, and then 12 days later, Iran fires hundreds of drones and missiles at Israel. Let's take a look at this story here. Okay, so this is the timeline leading up to what's going on right now. And I've got 42 people watching altogether. I'd like to encourage you, please. I really could use your support. Head over to the YouTube channel and just go ahead and subscribe. I could use your help a lot. It's a big deal. I'm a young, spry, up-and-coming YouTuber, and your support there would be ultra helpful. I appreciate it. Like, subscribe, and follow along. See you next time, all that other stuff. Okay, so here's the story. Iran launches retaliatory attack on Israel with hundreds of drones and missiles. All right, we have a statement from Israel. It's 2 minutes long. We can spare 2 minutes. Let's take a look and see what they have to say. Let's take the music down.
He later back. Iran launched barrages of explosive drones and missiles at Israel into the early hours of Sunday in its first ever direct attack on Israeli territory.
Yeah, this looks familiar.
It's a retaliatory strike that raises the threat of a wider regional conflict, with the United States pledging ironclad backing for Israel. Israeli military spokesperson Daniel Hagari said his country's forces had intercepted most of the salvo.
A number of Iranian missiles fell inside Israeli territory, causing minor damage to a military base with no casualties. Only one little girl has been hurt.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu convened a war cabinet in Tel Aviv, according to his office. He later posted on social media, quote, "We intercepted, we repelled, together we shall win." Iran had vowed revenge after blaming Israel for a deadly strike on its consulate in Syria's capital Damascus in early April. Israel has neither confirmed nor denied responsibility for the attack. The Iranian mission to the United Nations confirmed Saturday's blitz was in response to the Damascus strike, adding that the matter can be deemed concluded. In a post on X, the mission also warned against further action by Israel and its allies, saying, quote, "Should the Israeli regime make another mistake, Iran's response will be considerably more severe."
Interesting. Well, I guess we might as well finish.
It is a conflict between Iran and the rogue Israeli regime from which the U.S. must stay away. On Saturday, U.S. President Joe Biden cut short a visit to Delaware for an emergency meeting in the White House Situation Room.
This is how you walk to an emergency meeting when you're 85 billion years old. Look at this guy.
He later pledged
I'm here for the meeting.
Threats. White House said Biden and Netanyahu also spoke by phone on Saturday night. According to the Pentagon, U.S. forces intercepted dozens of missiles and drones launched from Iran as well as Iraq, Syria and Yemen. Many world leaders condemned the strikes, with United Nations Secretary-General Antonio Guterres adding that he was deeply alarmed by the very real danger of a devastating region-wide escalation. The Gaza war between Israel and Hamas, in its 7th month, has driven up regional tensions. It has spread to fronts with Lebanon and Syria and drawn long-range fire at Israeli targets from as far away as Yemen and Iraq.
Okay. All right, let's see if we can pick up where it left off. Significant response. These pictures are insane. I mean, they're insane. Imagine living over there and you've got this shit flying into you all the damn time. Just constant attacks from all directions constantly. It's just insane. All right. I think we got the gist of what happened there. They both kind of considered the matter closed after these two events occurred. Then we have in March of 2025, this is the next step forward. So since then, it was all quiet on the Eastern Front in this case. And then Trump gets elected, Trump comes out, and we all know about the 60-day ultimatum, or we should. If you don't, that's a thing that happens. So we're going to take a look at what we got here. All right. Come on, leave me alone. Do we have the video? Doesn't look like it. All right, let's go over. Should be down here somewhere. Let's see. Reactions. YouTube. Trump gives 2-month deadline. This is it right here. Let's take a look.
President Trump says Iran has a 2-month deadline to reach a new nuclear deal. The directive comes as Trump said he would like to reach a deal to gain more control.
I'm going to use the N-word.
Over Iran's nuclear capabilities. It's unclear how the U.S. would respond if Iran fails to enter direct talks about its nuclear program, though. Senior officials have not ruled out potential military action.
Yeah, they sure haven't. Okay, let's back out of this. Let's go back down to the story. How Trump blindsided Netanyahu with his Iran nuclear gamble. Okay, so I don't believe that headline for 1 second. I don't think anybody was blindsided inside of the government. I'm pretty sure everybody knew about what was going on here. They probably worked all this stuff out together. But this article was written in May, so, they didn't know what we know now. Let's take a look. May 2nd, Reuters. U.S. President Donald Trump blindsided Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu last month with a gamble on immediately opening negotiations with Iran. Now the success of those talks hinges on winning a handful of key concessions to stop the Islamic Republic from developing a nuclear bomb. See, this is the thing about Donald Trump is, like him or hate him, he does try to work this shit out. He actually does try to talk. He tries to do these deals, and he is not afraid of this really strong language, right? So you all know the story with the picture. He hands I think it was Soleimani a picture of his house and says, you're not gonna attack U.S. troops or else you're gonna die. Okay, so that whole thing. He's a good negotiator. That's why people like him. But this is kind of also at the same time, it's kind of letting the cat out of the bag. We now know what's going on. He's using that really strong language. You're going to get hit if you don't come to an agreement here. And, now we know what happened because of that. Israel is paying the price for us using them as a proxy to attack Iran. And so, anytime there's this war stuff going on, I just, I know there's a lot of people who are like, we have to stop Iran from having a nuclear weapon. I'm just not super confident that they were going to be close to having it. Okay, so let's take a look. We have Iranian nuclear facilities on this map outlined below. We have Tehran, Fordow, Kandab, Natanz, Isfahan, Bushehr, I think. I don't know how to say this. I'm not Iranian. If Tucker was here, he would grill me about how to say it and what language I speak. Iran's nuclear program. Okay, so this is going into really crazy detail. We don't really need to know how they're going to make their enriched uranium. I feel like we could catch a charge for even looking at this, but we're just going to go right past that. We have Vatanka, the analyst, likened Iran's current predicament to the 1988 decision by the regime's founder, Ruhollah Khomeini, to accept a ceasefire with Iraq. A moment he famously likened to drinking the bitter chalice of poison. It's about survival, Vatanka said. It's not capitulation. All right, so let's back out of that story. I think we're all good there. Let's head back up to the top. All right, so we've done this. We've done these. Okay. 60-day ultimatum starts March 7th, 2025. March 30th, Trump's press secretary said, Trump's press spray. I'm not sure what that means, but let's take a look. Trump warns any Iranian attack on U.S. interests would trigger unprecedented response.
Israeli military operations on Tehran continue for a third consecutive day.
Oh shit, this is 26 minutes long. Well, we're not going to watch all this. We're just going to skip around a little bit.
Iran's government spokesperson says the country made every effort to avoid conflict. And Israel's airspace remains closed, same as Iran's, in contrast to Jordan's.
Wow, this is the most boring news coverage I've ever seen in my life. What the fuck was that? We're doing way better than these guys, so let's just move on. That's not telling me anything. But Trump drops a warning. Okay, so maybe I've got this somewhere else. Hold on. I have a list here. Let's see. Trump assassination, seeking to end conflict, reps, racial meeting, not winning. I think this is... How old is this? When did this come out? Where's my stuff? Where's my date? 5 hours ago. That's not right. Okay, let's see. Joining Israel. All right, whatever. We're just gonna... We know what he said. We have it written down. Do you want me to look it up? Trump, this should be easy. Let's just do this. Okay. Everything's looking all good right now. No, nothing crazy. All right. Trump. There we go.
Trump
2 minutes, 33 seconds.
Iran will be bombed if it continues to develop nuclear weapons. Speaking to NBC News, Trump urged Tehran to make a deal with the U.S. soon or face consequences. And it was unclear whether Trump was threatening Iran with bombings by the U.S. or perhaps these bombings were going to be carried out by its partner Israel. But he said Iran will be bombed. By who? That wasn't clear. President Trump added that the United States officials are in
So this is right after his warning, his 60 days.
He didn't give details about the nature of these talks. The president said that he will not impose secondary tariffs. He said he will not impose secondary tariffs on Iran if they sign the nuclear deal with the U.S.
We're going to make a decision on secondary tariffs on Iran based on whether or not they're going to make a deal. If they're going to make a deal, then we're never going to put secondary.
They mess with his voice.
So hope they have a great, long, and successful life as a country. But we'll see what happens.
This guy reminds me of Palpatine in the Family Guy skit. Yes. We will go to war together, Trump. That's the vibe I get from this guy right here.
Very interesting. I can't imagine.
If you know who that is, say so in chat.
Anything else but making a deal. I would prefer a deal to the other alternative, which I think everybody in this plane knows what that is. And that's not going to be pretty, and I do not prefer that.
Trump's comments came after Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian has said that Tehran has rejected direct talks with the U.S. but is always open for indirect talks.
Okay, I don't know what indirect talks are. I don't know how you indirectly talk to anybody.
We just learned that President...
But whatever. All right, let's get back over here and come down. All right, so now we've got 6 days ago, Flashpoint, 9 to the 17th June, right? So Trump is en route to the G7, repeats the 60-day clock, warns Iran against hitting the Israel and the U.S. So let's take a look at what we've got here. All right. Okay, alright, leave me alone. Come on. What? We're not gonna... Okay, I guess we allow ads. That's fine. We'll allow ads just for this site right here. Okay, Iran... Let's go down here. Oh my god, I made a mistake. I made a huge mistake. What's happening? Alright, June 13th, Reuters. After months of urging Israel not to strike Iran while he worked toward a nuclear deal, President Donald Trump told Reuters in a phone interview on Friday that he and his team had known the attacks were coming and still saw room for an accord. We knew everything, and I tried to save Iran humiliation and death. I tried to save them very hard because I would have loved to see a deal work out. Okay, alright. Well, that's it. This is the whole article. That's it. This is it. I had to turn off my... Oh my god, leave me out. Get me out of here. Alright, so that happens. This is the 9th and the 10th of June. And then Operation Rising Lion. It should be Roaring Lion, I believe. Isn't it? Let's take a look. How much damage have Israeli strikes caused to Iran's nuclear program? Oh, it's just stopping me from reading. I need to subscribe. Oh, and I need oh my god, $1 a week. That's crazy. Just let me go. Just let me read the news. Oh my god. Alright. Let me fix this. Okay, give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. Gosh. Really driving me crazy. There we go. There's nothing going on over here yet. Everything's pretty chill. Let's roll it back to what would have been last night for them, and let's see if there was anything happening. Looks pretty quiet. Still looks pretty quiet. Yeah, let me get my music going. And make a stupid frickin' account here. Sorry, everybody. I'm pretty annoyed by this. But whatever. I'll buy the news so you don't have to. It's fine. It's fine, but remember, subscribe. You gotta subscribe. This is the equivalent exchange. This is the Full Metal Alchemist rules, is you have to subscribe in exchange for the news. That's just how it works, okay? Alright. You get the news, I get to subscribe. Wait, I get to pay for the news, you get to subscribe. Alright, so let's get out of here. Okay, here we go, the news. Can I turn my ad blocker back on now? I'm already subscribed. Let's sign in. Sign in. Beautiful. Leave me alone now. I'm signed in. I hate it here. Okay. This is horrible. Why do you pay to get ads? I don't understand. Anyway, whatever. We're back. We're back to it. We're back at it again. Alright. How much damage has Israeli strikes caused to Iran's nuclear... Oh my gosh, I can't talk. How much damage have Israeli strikes caused to Iran's nuclear program? Let's take a look. Program spelt in the British way by Francois Murphy. Okay, Vienna, June 16th. Israel has carried out a wide-ranging military strike on Iran, hitting sites including some of its most important nuclear facilities. Below is a summary of what is known about the damage inflicted on Iran's nuclear program, incorporating data from the last quarterly report by the UN nuclear watchdog on May 31st. All right. The International Atomic Energy Agency, which inspects Iran's nuclear sites, including its enrichment plants, says that it is of serious concern because no other country has enriched to that level without producing nuclear weapons. Okay, that's interesting. I did not know that. I was pretty well convinced that Israel was just over-exaggerating this claim, but the fact that these guys are saying it and they're part of, what are they part of? Let's take a look. Because if these guys are part of the UN, then that gives serious credence to the claims of Israel, because the UN cannot stand Israel. They hate them. So widely known as United Nations. Within the United Nations family. Okay, so yeah, that is actually massive. That is a really, really big deal. It seems more and more likely that Iran was close to a nuclear weapon given that information. That's a huge deal, okay? Because no other country is Western powers say there is no civil justification for enrichment on that level. Iran denies seeking nuclear weapons. It points to its right to nuclear technology for peaceful purposes, including enrichment, as a party to the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. Israel, which is not party to the NPT, is the only country in the Middle East widely believed to have nuclear weapons. Israel does not deny or confirm that. Yeah, that's another problem, really. It's like, why is it okay for them to have it? Israel does some stuff that I'm not crazy about, and I talked about it a little bit on the last stream a few days ago, but the idea, let me pull this story up, okay? This is from a couple years ago. Israel. Let's see. In Jewish tradition, a red heifer is a cow of specific reddish-brown color without any blemishes or defects and that has never been yoked for work. According to religious texts, its ashes are essential for a purification ritual that would allow for the rebuilding of the Third Temple in Jerusalem. In 2022, 5 red heifers were imported from the United States to Israel. The Book of Numbers in the Torah outlines the laws and rituals surrounding the red heifer. It specifies that the ashes of the heifer mixed with water are used to purify individuals who have become ritually impure through a contact with a dead body. Okay, controversy. The topic of the red heifer and the potential building of the temple is controversial, particularly due to its location on the Temple Mount, which is a site of the Al-Aqsa Mosque, a major Islamic holy site. And some religious interpretations connect the red heifer with an end times prophecy and the belief that its ashes will usher in a new era. These guys are pretty damn close to religious extremists on their side of the spectrum too, which is why I have an issue with them also having nuclear weapons. Also, everybody in the Middle East wants to kill them, and that means that they are more likely to use nuclear weapons than anybody else, and given that they're not part of the NPT, that could be a good or a bad thing. Maybe the other members of the NPT won't react to them launching nuke. I mean, I doubt it. That's a stupid thing to even say. If they launch a nuke, we have nuclear proliferation and a complete and utter annihilation of the majority of mankind, except for people like Bezos, who already have a fucking shelter underneath a mountain somewhere. How many of you people in chat have a shelter that you can go and hide under or in a nuclear war? None of you? Okay, cool. Maybe one. I don't know. You guys. Maybe you're all rich. If you're rich, donate. Please, appreciate it. Anyway, so let's take a look a little further here. The fuel enrichment plant at Natanz, a power supply hit, a vast underground facility designed to house 50,000 centrifuges. The machines that enrich uranium. There is long been speculation among military experts about whether Israeli airstrikes could destroy the facility, given that it's several floors underground. There are about 17,000 centrifuges installed there, of which around 13,500 were operating at last count, enriching uranium to up to 5%. Electricity infrastructure in Natanz was destroyed. IAEA Chief Rafael Grossi told the UN Security Council on Friday, specifically an electrical substation, the main electric power supply building, emergency power supply, and backup generators. While there is no indication of a physical attack on the underground hull containing the FEP, the loss of power may have damaged the centrifuges there. Okay, well, I mean, that would be a good thing. I don't want any of these people to have nukes. I don't even want us to have nukes. I don't want anyone on Earth to have nukes. I think that the less people with nukes, the better. That's my official position on that matter. So let's move on. Okay. So we're here in U.S. as a response. The yellow is a U.S. response. So Trump to Reuters. We knew just about everything. Okay. Day 6. This is day 61, right? So this is one of my big beefs. Okay. Trump came, we elected Trump to not do this shit. And here he is doing this shit. Now, I mean, on the one hand, you have to be firm, and you also, you can't, it's a catch-22, because in order to make any deals, right, he has to have the full force and backing of the United States military behind him as that mechanism to show, like, hey, I ain't fucking playing, you know, like, come to an agreement. Just like with the tariffs, he has that we're the world's largest economy by a lot, by I think, man, I forget. Let's just pull it up. We're talking about it, so let's get into it. Economy by GDP. Okay. So the US is the largest by more than 10 million. Okay, or 10 trillion, excuse me. It's slightly larger. Okay, and the second largest is almost half as much, right? Like, it's pretty extreme how big our economy is. That being said, if you have ever worked in sales or anything like that, you understand that when it comes to negotiations, the person who holds the power in a negotiation is the one who has the money, the buyer, right? That's who needs to be courted, who needs to be impressed, who needs to be really the one who's getting the deal, right? So that's why I was kind of pro-tariff. I think that the way he was doing it was a little like haphazard. I think he could have cleaned it up a bit, but honestly, it pissed me off that he backed off on that. And it's the same kind of thing, right? With the economic stuff, we've got a lot of grounds to say, hey, we need to be getting a better deal, or like, my opinion is that we protect free trade for the entire world. So what I would have done instead would be to cut a deal where every single trade that happens in the world, right, we get 1% of the profit, because that trade would not be able to be, it wouldn't be able to happen without us facilitating the safety of these trade vessels. That's my opinion on it. We should have been taking that off the top of every deal. If Japan runs a payload of goods all the way over to the UK, we should get 1% of that, because they're not spending a single dime of their tax dollars on their military to protect those trade routes, and we are. We should be reimbursed for that. And if I did the math right when I checked it out, that would be about $1 trillion coming right off the top of our deficit and going toward our debts. And I think that would be fair. If you're going to do an across-the-board tariff, that's the way you do it, and you justify it that same way. But I think he framed it wrong, and I don't know. I had some issues with the way he did it, but I like the premise, if that makes sense. I would have written the stage directions a little different. if you want to use that metaphor. But let's get back into this. After months of urging Israel not to strike Iran while he worked toward a nuclear deal, President Donald Trump told Reuters in a phone interview on Friday that he and his team had known the attacks were coming and still saw room for an accord. We knew everything, and I tried to save Iran humiliation and death. We already read this. I did my terrible Trump impression. They can still work out a deal. However, it's not too late. Not too late. They can still work out a deal. Except it kind of is too late. The people who are working out a deal are now dead. And there's this weird thing with dead people where they can't cut any deals. So that's kind of crazy. That's kind of cringe. That's a cringe Trump moment, but let's move on. Trump had repeatedly pushed Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to delay an Israeli attack to give diplomacy more time, though the president himself had threatened to bomb the Gulf nation if nuclear talks failed. Trump's shifting stance around the Israeli strikes, which he called excellent and very successful, they were the best military strikes. Some people say that I have the best military strikes. I think Israel's military strikes were some of the best I've ever seen. In a series of media interviews on Friday, offered one of the most striking examples of how he conducts high-stakes negotiations through both frank public rhetoric and behind-the-scenes maneuvers. I will say, for as much as I don't agree with it, this all does look planned, and it looks like it was planned really well. And I wouldn't do it. This isn't the way I would have done it. I don't like it. I don't want to go. I don't want to send a single tax dollar worth of ICBMs or anything overseas, but I get it. You got to do what you got to do kind of at the same time. This is why we're going over all this stuff. I really don't know what to think about all this. I hate this. I grew up, I was in first grade when 9/11 happened. The teacher put it on TV because she was a psychopath. And I watched the towers free fall live. I just don't understand why we want more of this. I really want to stay out of this. My whole life, literally my whole life, up until like 3 years ago, we were constantly boots on the ground overseas in some kind of conflict, and we haven't approved a war congressionally since World War II. I have tons of problems with this stuff, tons of it, okay? But let's move on. So we knew about everything. This was right after Trump said we don't know anything, and Marco Rubio, Marky Mark, was like, oh, we got nothing to do with it, I swear. And then Trump's like, we knew everything. I had everything to do with it. Netanyahu and we planned it on the golf course. So now we've got June 13th. So same day. This is an Iranian move. So they launch the missiles at Israel. So we've seen this. Everybody knows this. This was basically the same day as the attack on Israel. They responded right away. They lost all of those. They lost a lot of leadership. Oh, this is the whole story? I guess we'll read it because it's so short. June 13th, Iran fired less than 100 missiles on Israel on Friday, most of which have either been intercepted or fallen short, the Israeli military said. A limited number of buildings were affected, some of them as a result of shrapnel from the interception operations. The Israeli military's Arabic language spokesperson, Avichai Adraei, said in a post on X. All right, let's take a look at X because this is the whole reason why the thumbnail is the way that it is. And if you are on X watching this, I strongly recommend, you gotta see what the thumbnail I made for this for today, because this was a big story on X, but not a lot of people talked about it. So this was actual Iranian propaganda. Okay, so one of the things that had the Israel good and Israel bad and Iran good, or let me just say the war good and the war bad people arguing back and forth. No, the Israel good or bad people arguing back and forth was this topic here. When Iran fired back onto Israel, Iran was not, they weren't really targeting anything, I don't think. They did hit the Israel version of the Pentagon, but they also hit a lot of like apartment buildings and stuff like that. So people were like, well, look at Israel. When they hit like the bedroom of these 10 people they wanted to kill, and so they're dead now. But when Iran does it, they're just spraying shotgun shells all over whatever they hit, right? And I kind of tend to think that they were just like, I don't know, if it's in the border of Israel, then hopefully it gets hit with a missile. I think that was really kind of the opinion that they had, or like the tactic they had. But this is such a fucking fun video, so I'm just gonna start it up now. Basically, Iran came out and they were like, well, it's not like we were just shooting at apartment buildings. We know from our from our intelligence that they're storing F-35s inside of these apartment buildings. They secretly were building apartment buildings actually just for military warehouse storage, okay? Now, if you think this is bad and stupid, well, you're right. Nobody believed this. And I doubt any Iranians believed it. I love how the patio fence is wrapped around, and their like nose is sticking out of the patio fence. You would be able to see this. And then also some of them had full-blown missiles just hidden in there. And look at how good Iran is, aren't you? Oh, and look at that. That's an entire aircraft carrier underneath this apartment building. And oh, what? I'm pretty sure that's an Imperial Star Destroyer. Now, I am a Star Wars expert, really, for all intents and purposes. This is an Imperial Star Destroyer. It was used during the Galactic Rebellion in the... Now, up here, this is a communications array, and this is the bridge, this small, thin section here. No, that's a lie. This is a shield generator. I'm sorry. The communications array is in a different location, but not pictured. So, true. If this is true, which it's clearly not true, I would be in favor of attacking Israel. I would be in favor of the entire planet going into a full-blown ground invasion of Israel in order to not just recover the technology to build the Imperial Star Destroyer, but also to prevent them from using the Imperial Star Destroyer against us. Now, just because I want to be pedantic about it, let's take a look at the actual size of an Imperial Star Destroyer. Just to see if you could even fit one inside of an apartment building. Let's see, do we have any? Here we go, right here.
So how big would a Star Destroyer look if it flew over Manhattan? Well, at 1.6 kilometers long, or a mile long, and 900 meters in width, that means an Imperial-class Star Destroyer would be just about 50 meters wider than Central Park, and stretch from 59th Street all the way to 79th Street, which means about 20 blocks long.
Okay, so that's pretty big. I don't know. Let's just take a look at Tel Aviv, right? I mean, maybe, right? Like, imagine we find out that actually Iran was right the whole time, and and in reality, there was let's see, if I were to go with this route, let's go with this route. Oh, no. Okay, so this is 14 kilometers. All right, so yeah, that's more than a mile, 1.6 miles. Let's just double check. 1.6 miles to kilometers. Why are we doing this? Clearly, we don't have to do this. Oh, it's, no, miles, not meters. 2 kilometers. Why are you messing with me? Just Google it, please. Thank you. Okay. So yeah, we're good. We've got plenty of miles there. You could fit a couple of Imperial Star Destroyers underneath Israel. Good to know. That's like 5 Imperial Star Destroyers. So they could even have more. All right. So maybe we should be taking Iran a little bit more seriously. And if you think that this is a joke, it's not. If you look here, this is Suleiman Ahmed, okay? He's a journalist. He's a pro-Iranian guy. Breaking, Iran targeted infrastructure and buildings in Tel Aviv and used by Israel to store F-35 jets and submarines. Well, notice that there was no submarines pictured anywhere in this bullshit. But he failed to mention the Imperial Star Destroyer also there. I thought this was fake. It's not fake. They actually were using that as propaganda. I also thought this was fake. So this was 19 hours ago in Tel Aviv, okay? I ran this through 2 different AI checkers. It is real. Pun intended. It is real. This is not AI. I thought that it was, but this is just an insane picture. All right. I want to see the actual video here. This is what it looked like. It was actually happening. All right. So, bad stuff happening all over the Middle East right now. You don't want to be anywhere near this. I would take a lot of the "we need to get out of here" instructions very seriously. So that's on the 13th. Then we have 14th through the 15th. Retaliatory barrages grow to 400 total missiles and drones. Okay, let's take a look. Israel-Iran conflict may last only as long as their missiles hold out. Jerusalem. Since Friday, the same dramatic exchange has played out more than 6 times over the skies of Israel. A barrage of Iranian ballistic missiles comes streaking in. A flurry of Israeli defensive interceptors rise to knock out most, but not all of the incoming volley. One key question is, how long can each side keep it up? The answer may affect how long the conflict could last. This is a very good question. Historically, Israel's conflicts are quick because they have like a strong, impacting immediate force, but they don't have the supplies, size, or infrastructure to be able to support a long-lasting conflict or war. Israeli intelligence officials estimated that Iran had about 2,000 missiles capable of traveling 1,200 miles to hit Israel, but a significant fraction was destroyed the moment Israel's covert operatives in Iran and its fighter jets launched a surprise attack early Friday, kicking off the conflict. Since then, Israeli military officials say that Iran has launched roughly 400 missiles from its remaining stockpile, and Israeli strikes have eliminated 120, or 1/3, of Iran's missile launchers. Moreover, Israeli officials, when I first heard this, I thought they were saying missiles, and I was like, well, 120 out of 2,000, they still have a long way to go. But if it's missile launchers, that kind of changes everything. And this is also why I said before that for as much as I don't agree with this as of right now, I don't want any war, man. I don't want any of it at all. I don't want anything to do with it. And I don't want to see people die, whether they're in Iran or Syria or Pakistan or French Polynesia or the Easter Island. I don't fucking care where on earth people are dying. I don't want it to happen because I have a heart, right? Nobody wants this stuff. Really, in reality, nobody actually wants this. Nobody wants to see people die. Now, what they want is a peaceful planet, and sometimes you gotta crack a few eggs, and I understand that, but and I try to be realistic about it, but I'm very hard line on this, especially when it comes to the government. The government sucks at everything. What makes you think that they're not lying to you now? And so I'm still split on that. The International Agency for Enrichment, or whatever the hell it was, that's run by the UN, that hates Israel, agrees with Israel that Iran was extremely close to having nuclear weapons, or at least shouldn't have been enriching as much uranium as they were if they were only using it for power. That is a really big key point, they were actually going to fucking nuke someone, likely Israel. Okay. So let's move forward. Iran has to make a very, very difficult calculation because they have a limited amount of missiles. Considering the rate of fire, they cannot replenish in time, said Fabian Hinz, a military analyst with the International Institute for Strategic Studies. Hinz I think it's his, noted that even the 150 missiles fired Friday night were fewer than the 200 Iran fired at Israel in October in retaliation for the assassination of Hamas leadership. So if we come back, this is what they're talking about right here. Okay, so I'm pretty sure. In October, I guess this is a different one. Damn, dude, that's insane. All right, let's skip forward. All right, so this is the next part of the plot here. If you're still paying attention to the main storyline, we've got right now, there's like a ticking clock, which really adds a lot of drama to any story. A ticking clock element's important for a narrative-driven story. And usually when you establish the ticking clock, that's when things start to really ramp up. Okay, so they have a limited amount of things that they can do. And I actually have the ticker here. They have, this is missiles fired by Iran. It's 400. Okay. Missiles intercepted. Israel claims 90%. Iran long-range in stock, 1/3 to 1/2 depleted. Launchers at 30% destroyed, which means they've got about 1/2 to 2/3 remaining. Okay, so we could, and this is as of today. So we could see this continue for another week at least, as far as the volleys of missile strikes going back and forth. All right, so then we have a U.S. response. White House memo, U.S. defensive only, no kinetic rules in Iran. Let's take a look. Trump calls for Iran's unconditional surrender as Iran air war rages on. This is today. Are we all on today at this point? Let's take a look. Hold on. No, this is just not the right article. Well, that's okay. I think this was Marco Rubio, and I think maybe this article is just like constantly updating. Yeah. All right, so it's just changed. It's updated since this was taken. So I remember Marco Rubio. Let's see if we can find his statements. Marco Rubio, no involvement. Here we go. U.S. says it was not involved in Israeli strikes on Iran. President Trump has said he would like to negotiate a deal with Tehran over its nuclear program, but had also acknowledged that Israel might attack Iran first. This was... Do we have a date for this article? June 12th, okay, by Qasim Nauman. Okay. Sorry, Qasim, I just completely, brutally fucked your name. I have no idea how to say that at all. Okay. So this is when everything had just happened. And Trump was like, yeah, I knew all about it. I knew everything about it. I wanted to know everything about it. I think that knowing everything about it is super based. And then Marco Rubio comes out right after that and says that the United States had no involvement in Israel's unilateral strikes on Iran, but had been told that Israel considered the attack necessary for its self-defense. President Trump, who has been pushing for a deal with Iran on its nuclear program, was hosting the annual White House picnic on Thursday when reports of strikes emerged from Tehran. Okay, despite his expressed hopes for a diplomatic breakthrough, no, not Mr. It's President Trump. President Trump has also acknowledged on Thursday that Israel might attack first. In a statement, Mr. Rubio said, "We're not involved in strikes against Iran. Our top priority is protecting American forces in the region. Israel advised us that they believe this action was necessary for its self-defense." It was not immediately clear how much detail about the strike Israel had provided. This is really the claim that's on trial here. Really, that's what all this is about. We need to figure out if this action was actually necessary for self-defense. And if it was, then we can say, all right, well, we got to help a little bit here. or this is total bullshit, false flag shit, and people are trying to get ginned up into co-signing onto another forever war with oil barons in Iran this time, okay? And I gotta remind you that if you are at all paying attention for the past 20 years, this has been, like, every administration has been moving in the direction of trying to do regime change in Iran. Let's take a look at the map of the Middle East here. All right, just take a look at this. Oh my God, dude, what the hell? Everything's bothering me. All right, so we have Iran is right here. Let's take a look at where we've actually gone and attacked, okay? We've gone into Afghanistan. We've gone into Iraq. We've gone into Syria. I mean, we've been surrounding them with our foreign policy for 20 years. This was always part of the plan, okay? And now we're being pushed into it by Israel, which is why I'm just so completely skeptical of all this stuff. I do not want to see this happen. So let's, I can keep explaining that again and again and again, or we can move forward. Let's see what happens next. Okay, defensive only, blah, blah, blah. Second IAF wave destroys 2 Iranian F-14s and more launchers. Okay, well, we don't need to read a whole article for that. Trump Truth Post. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. Evacuate Tehran. All right, so this is right after we said we weren't involved. And look at that. We seem pretty involved to me. I'm going to mute my mic while this plays. I'll be able to hear it, but I'm just going to get some coffee, so I will be right back. Also, I see that there's some more people viewing. If you're on X, I would really, really appreciate it if you came over to YouTube and subscribed. It would mean a lot to me. It would really help my channel grow so that more people can see and get involved and get a real moderate view on what's going on with the news instead of all the crazy one-sided red gets mad at blue and then blue gets mad at red stuff. We want to get more people involved and active in the political environment so that we don't lose the midterms. The moderates keep winning and we can elect another moderate president after Donald Trump. So please head over to youtube.com/@Corbin Dauster or just YouTube and then search up Corbin Dauster, Dauster. Don't forget to subscribe, like, follow, all that stuff on Kick, same place, all that stuff on X, it's all the same. It's Corbin Dauster everywhere, okay? All right, let me play this. I'm going to get some coffee. So I'm going to mute my mic for a second, but I'll be right back.
Start this broadcast with some breaking news that's just come in, where the American President Donald Trump has issued another stern warning to Iran. In a post that he's put out on Truth Social, Donald Trump has said, and I quote the American president here, 2 months ago, I gave Iran a 60-day ultimatum to make a deal. They should have done it. Today is day 61. I told them what to do, but they just couldn't get it there. And now they have perhaps a second chance. And joining us over the phone line, we've got our correspondent Susan Tehrani, who's joining us from New York. Susan, this is an interesting, social media post by the American president where he says, 2 months ago, I gave Iran a 60-day ultimatum to make a deal. They didn't do so. So today is day 61, which is why Iran has paid the price. Does this point to the level of American involvement in these attacks that are being carried out by the state of Israel?
Yes. Prior to that post, Mohammed, there's a post by the U.S. president who appears to say that there is still an opportunity that if Iran calls, the United States will pick up the phone and try to reach some kind of nuclear agreement. But yes, you're absolutely right. It appears that what President Trump is alluding to is asking Israel not to strike Iran for about 60 days until it hopes to find a nuclear deal. But it also somewhat leaves a gray area on U.S. involvement because he says that I gave Iran this 60-day chance. It doesn't say that the United States was involved.
Okay, Susan's kind of based, right? So the idea that that the 60-day timeline was for, I'm back by the way, was for Iran might actually be the other way. It might actually have been just for Israel, right? I think that they knew full well that there was no chance of them making a deal. And so maybe the 60-day timeline was for Israel and not Iran. In reality, right?
Involved in the attack, although it appeared earlier that he told a Fox News journalist that the United States was fully aware, and so was at least one Persian Gulf country. But he's saying that basically I stuck to my word, and if it just follows his previous social media post that I was talking to, and I know that we covered, which basically said that things can get a lot worse than this. So many of your high-ranking generals are dead right now.
Jesus. He does know how to say some crazy shit. Like, imagine being them, and he's like, all your generals are dead. It's like, holy shit.
It's interesting that you point out that the American president says that he's a man of his words. He does what he says. But he had repeatedly been saying that he had waved off an attack that was planned by the Israelis on the Iranian nuclear sites. There was
2 months ago, I gave Iran a 60-day ultimatum to make a deal. They should have done it. Today is 61. I told them what to do, but they just couldn't get there. Now, they have perhaps a second chance.
Literally no indication
they didn't.
That the Iranians perhaps had.
They didn't, because there was no one to negotiate with at this point in time, right? After the initial Israeli attacks, everybody died, right? So yeah, that's good enough for that. We all know about this stuff. This is a pretty key moment. The USS Nimitz heads west. Patriots THAAD redeployed. So let's take a look at the Nimitz really quick. Here's why it's important. So USS Nimitz. So I want to see the history of the Nimitz. No, not Chester Nimitz. We don't care about him. USS Nimitz. Here we go. Okay, this is an aircraft carrier of the Navy and the lead ship of her class. Now, the thing is that this was about to be, this is its last mission, okay? The ship was named after World War II Pacific Fleet Commander Nimitz, who was the Navy's 3rd Fleet Admiral. 1987 when she was relocated, now part of the new refueling complex. Her home port was changed to Naval South San Diego County. Home port Nimitz was then moved again to Station Everett. January 2015, Nimitz changed to Port Everett with the inactivation of the USS Enterprise. Oh, I didn't know he had an Enterprise. That's kind of hype. Star Trek fans. All right, so let's see. Ship destroyer, squadron, service history. Here we go. First deployed in the Mediterranean Sea. You see what that's close to? In 76, with Carrier Air Wing 8 embarked in company with the nuclear-powered cruisers South Carolina and California. In 76, Nimitz was awarded Battle E from Commander Naval Air Force Atlantic Fleet for being the most efficient, foremost aircraft carrier in the Atlantic Fleet. The cruise was uneventful, and the carrier returned to Virginia. Okay, so this is no big deal. Second cruise, deployment, ship moved to Indian Ocean, U.S. Embassy to Iran. Here we go. Boom. Then a second uneventful Mediterranean cruise was conducted from December 1st, 1977 to July 20th, 1978. The third deployment began on September 10th, 1979 to the Mediterranean. The ship moved to the Indian Ocean in response to the Iran hostage crisis, in which the U.S. Embassy in Tehran, Iran, was overtaken and 52 hostages were held. Prior to this trip, the ship took part in the shooting of the 1980 film The Final Countdown, whose story was specifically set aboard the Nimitz. After 4 months on station operating, was launched Nimitz in an attempt to rescue the embassy staff. The mission was aborted after a helicopter crashed at a refueling depot in the Iranian desert, and it returned after spending 144 days at sea. Okay? In 1981, flight deck crash. So basically, the theory is that after this failed mission in Iran, they're now sending it out there to get revenge. This is the idea why the Nimitz matters for this conflict, right? There's some more stuff going on here. I'm sure that I'm missing something important. I'm not like a big Navy nerd, so if you want to tell me in chat what it is that I'm missing here, I'll go and look at it again if you know exactly where to look, but or what to search up. But I'm gonna move on from here. Okay, so I wanted to know what China and the G7 have to do with all this too, because China's always got their fingers in everything, including all of our real estate, which is a different problem. And the whole reason why I think we need to be not dealing with this stuff is because of issues like that. We need to get China's fingers out of our politics and real estate and possibly our elections. Look into that. That story just dropped. 2020 elections possibly may have been somewhat engineered by China. I think it was Kash Patel who dropped that story. So let's take a look at this. I don't know anything about this, but here's a concern here, right? We are concerned that if Xi and China start giving Iran more missiles, that they'll be able to continue the prolonged attacks in Israel, right? And so again, same thing as before. You really don't want, if you're Israel, you don't want this to go for a very long time. You want this to maybe go for another couple of weeks, complete your mission, and all that other stuff. Otherwise, you're gonna have a lot of trouble. Okay, but if China's giving missiles to Iran, now we've got an even bigger problem. It's gonna make things go on for a longer time. More people are gonna die and get hurt, and nobody wants that. Except for these maniacs, right? Except unless you're John Bolton type. China is deeply worried about Israel's military operation against Iran that has escalated tensions in the Middle East. President Xi Jinping said on Tuesday in his first public comments on the conflict that erupted last Friday. Xi, speaking on the sidelines of the summit with 5 Central Asian nations in the Kazakh capital of Astana, said China opposes any actions that infringe on the sovereignty, security, and territorial integrity of other countries. All parties should work to de-escalate the conflict as soon as possible and prevent the situation from worsening further, Xi said in comments quoted by Chinese state broadcaster CCTV. China is ready to play a constructive role in restoring peace and stability in the Middle East, he added. Earlier on Tuesday, the Chinese Foreign Ministry said China had begun evacuating its citizens from Israel and Iran and was pushing for a ceasefire as fighting continued for a 5th day. That is very good news, okay? So China calls on relevant parties, especially those countries that have special influence on Israel, I mean, I think we know who they're talking about, to shoulder their due responsibilities, take immediate measures to cool down the tense situation, and prevent the conflict from escalating and spreading. I agree with China. Never thought I would say that before, but I agree with China. If there is a plan, they need to wrap it up right now and move on with our lives, okay? We need to chill everybody out. This is why there's been nonstop conflict in Israel between Israel and the Palestinians for the better part of 30 years, is because of the same thing. You have an attack and a response, and then an attack and a response. And it's just not necessary. You don't have to keep responding. And I understand it. Like, I imagine myself in a situation where I'm about to get in a fight, and just how red you get and how upset you get. And all those feelings, right, of I've got to get back at them and blah, blah, blah. But in reality, we don't have to go down that road. It's gonna take one side or the other to chill out to stop this from escalating, okay? And if that doesn't happen, it's just gonna keep getting worse and ramping and getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And that's all bad. All that stuff is bad, and we don't want it, right? Because we don't want dead people, regardless of their ethnicity, okay? So, yeah, very happy about that. That's a good statement from China. Probably a lie, but if not, good statement. Base G and foreign, whatever. G7 communique backs Israel self-defense. Okay, let's take a look. G7 expresses support for Israel, calls Iran source of instability. All right. What countries make up the G7? I don't really know enough about them. Group of 7 nations expressed support for Israel in a statement issued late on Monday and labeled its rival Iran as the source of instability in the Middle East, with the G7 leaders urging broader de-escalation of hostility. So everybody wants us to chill out. G7's like, yeah, we don't like Iran, but also chill the fuck out. Don't turn this into something hotter than it has to be. The air war between Iran and Israel, which began Friday when Israel attacked Iran with airstrikes, has raised alarms in the region that had already been on edge since the start of Israel's military assault on Gaza in October of 2023. I can't believe it's been 2 years. 2 years. Jesus Christ. We affirm that Israel has a right to defend itself. We reiterate our support for the security of Israel. Iran is a principal... excuse me. Oh, my lord. Iran is a principal source of regional instability and terror. This statement added and said G7 was clear that Iran can never have a nuclear weapon. Yeah, I mean, it seems like everybody kind of agrees on that part, right? Nobody wants Iran to have a nuclear weapon. Let's see what the UK had to say about it. I'm sure it was gay as shit. But let's take a look. From the Secretary of State for Foreign, Commonwealth, and Development Affairs. With permission, Madam Deputy Speaker, I will remind the House that the Foreign Office has been responding to 2 crises in the past week. The Undersecretary of State for Foreign, Commonwealth, and Development Affairs, this is some gay UK shit I don't understand. Friend, the member for Lincoln, Mr. Falconer. What the hell is this guy saying, man? I speak the same language as this dude. I have no idea what he's talking about. We'll update the House on the government's extensive efforts to assist those who... All right, let's talk... I will now turn to the Middle East. Early last Friday morning, Israel launched extensive strikes across Iran. The targets included military sites, the uranium enrichment facility in Natanz, key commanders, and nuclear scientists. The last 72 hours has seen Iranian ballistic missile and drone strikes across Israel, killing at least 21 Israelis and injuring hundreds more. So my understanding is that it's been 10-1 for Iranian deaths versus Israeli. Let's take a look. I've got the stats here. Details: 224 Iranians to 24 Israelis. So yeah, and those are all civilians, guys. So before you go cheering on even the strikes and not having boots on the ground, let's remember that these are real people's homes that are in the line of fire here. We don't want that. So, with the Iranian reported scores of civilian casualties, Prime Minister Netanyahu has said that his operations will, quote, continue for as many days as it takes to remove the threat, unquote. Supreme Leader Khamenei has said Israel must expect severe punishment. I don't know who's going to dish it out. All of his leadership is dead. But, yeah. So, UK is just kind of explaining the situation. I'm glad we read that. It's so fucking pointless. Okay, that's interesting. Russia's statement calls the raid illegal. Let's take a look. Let's just copy this. See if we can find that story. Let's get rid of the fucking... Based on the information of the Ministry of Affairs calling them illegal. Let's find the... I'd like to find a source. Here we go. June 17th, Russia's foreign ministry denounced on Tuesday continued Israeli attacks on Iran, that's today, as illegal, and said a solution to the conflict over Tehran's nuclear program could only be found through diplomacy. The continuing intensive attacks by Israel or Iran's peaceful nuclear sites are illegal in terms of international law and create unacceptable threats to international security and push the world to a nuclear catastrophe. Well, that brings us, because we're pretty much at the end of my list here, that covers all the important stuff. That brings us, I do have some more information on Israel and Iran, but it's all proxy stuff. Basically, we've got a ton of different provocations from both. Usually Israel is using Mossad to target a handful of important executives and other folks like that. And then Iran is just blowing shit up with drones and taking hostages. And funding Hamas and the Houthis and other organizations like that through the now head removed leadership head removed wing of Iran called the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, I believe. IRG, yeah. All right, so that's the story there. We can just kind of skip over this. There's just more details. Okay, yeah, we're pretty much done with our list here. So let's just take a look at some of these videos we've got ready to go. We went through most of these. Explosions around Tehran as Israel announces strikes. Rockets rain down on Iran. Mid-air explosions over Tel Aviv. 4 injured in Haifa amid fresh missile salvo. Chinese embassy urges nationals to leave Israel. We covered all this stuff. Let's take a look at my my list of stuff here to go over.
We are following some breaking news as it relates to President Donald Trump. I want you to take a good look at your screen. This just in from the New York Post as they report a former Coast Guard officer has been arrested after allegedly threatening to assassinate President Donald Trump. They got that report from the FBI. As we discuss this breaking news, I do want to transition to give you a live look at the White House this Tuesday morning. We are following the very latest from our content partners also at Fox News this Tuesday. They report a former Coast Guard lieutenant was recently arrested for allegedly making threats to kill President Donald Trump, according to court documents obtained by Fox News.
I don't know, this doesn't seem super serious, and it's definitely not related to Iran, so we're gonna skip past this one. We've all said things in the heat of the moment. Like, I imagine that a lot of folks are probably saying similar things right now because they're so pissed about all this, so.
Thank you, Tammy. The president said he wants to see Iran offers unconditional surrender. I'm not going to ask you to comment on the president's statement, but I'm going to ask you if the secretary is involved in any kind of diplomatic missions with his allies, with the Germans, with the French, trying to offer something to the Iranians as a way out.
6 hours ago.
I, again, would not speak on the details of any diplomatic conversations, if they occurred, between whom, what those details would be. We know, of course, the secretary and the president were at the G7. Their constant work from the moment they came to office has been to, and certainly Secretary Rubio.
Okay, she's not saying anything. She's doing that political thing, so let's just skip over that. Let's see.
And for the 5th day in a row, Israel and Iran are trading strikes with civilians facing waves of attacks.
President Trump says the ongoing conflict is what prompted him to leave the G7 summit early. Julia Benbrook is at the White House this afternoon with the latest.
President Donald Trump is back here at the White House after abruptly leaving the G7 summit in Canada.
Did they ever do anything at the G7 anyway?
But
Did he really need to be there?
Israel and Iran
Probably
was
not.
intensifying. He told reporters at the summit, "I have to be back as soon as I can." The White House confirmed his plans for an early departure, writing, quote, "because of what's going on in the Middle East." On Air Force One, the president told reporters he's seeking, quote, "a real end to the conflict between Israel and Iran," arguing that would be preferable to a ceasefire, while also suggesting his patience for negotiations is wearing thin.
What specifically is better than a ceasefire? What are you looking for here? And then a real end, not a ceasefire. And then so something that will be permanent. Yeah, or giving up entirely. That's okay too.
The president met with members of his national security team in the Situation Room Tuesday, just hours after he returned. While there are conflicting reports on how developed Iran's nuclear capabilities are, Trump says he believes Iran was on the verge of obtaining a nuclear weapon when Israel struck last week. Israel has been pressing Trump to become more involved in its campaign to dismantle Iran's nuclear facilities, which top officials from the country have said would require American planes and weapons.
The reason why is because the main facility is a bunker, right? So it's so deep underground that there's no Israeli weaponry that can penetrate that depth and take it out. So what they're asking for from us specifically is a bunker buster. Now, if you're into this stuff at all, you already know what a bunker buster is.
As Israel continues its attacks on Iran, there's growing speculation that it may need to talk to Washington about the possible use of American bunker buster bombs. That's because if it wants to realize its goal of destroying Iranian nuclear facilities, it's going to have to take out the Fordo enrichment plant, which is buried deep under a mountain in Iran. Right now, Israel itself lacks the conventional capabilities to take out such a facility, so it would need to talk to the U.S. about the bunker buster. Now, the bunker buster is not a specific bomb; it's a type of bomb. What we're talking about is a specific American weapon, which is 30,000-pound precision-guided bomb, and it can only be carried by the B-2 stealth bomber right now, because that's the only plane that's configured to carry such a weapon. Now.
He's going to go into detail about how it works, but essentially it strikes the same spot like 3 times, right? So hits, and then you're down in the bunker and everything's fucking destroyed. We're going to watch the rest of this video, but I wanted to take a quick second. If you're watching this on X, please head over to YouTube and subscribe. I could really use your support. If you're watching on YouTube and you're not subscribed, please subscribe. There's a new channel. We're fresh. And if you want to see more content like this, where I do deep dives into everything, I need you to subscribe or you're going to miss it, man. You're going to miss it. I don't want you to miss it. I want you to be here or be square. Pants off, brain on. So come on, join me. Like it if you're watching on YouTube. Follow on Kick if you're watching on Kick. Shoot me a follow. I would love to have you join my little militia we're building here, okay?
This, of course, means that you'd have an American...
That was just a joke. This is not a... This is...
with an American pilot
just a joke.
Dropping an American
Kidding.
bomb on an Iranian nuclear facility, which raises the possibility, obviously, of getting the U.S. more directly involved in a conflict in the Mideast, which is something that President Trump has said that he doesn't want to do. Trump has himself refused to comment on the possibility of U.S. military assistance like that, and Israel itself has said that it's so far only asked the U.S. for any defensive weapons. So right now, this is just speculation.
I'm sure that's what's going on here, okay? I'm sure that's what's going on here. We can get more into detail on it, but I wanted to get into one other quick story. We have.
I recently visited Hiroshima in Japan and stood at the epicenter.
This is our Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard. If you're a moderate like me, you were considering voting for her in 2020. And if you're not, then you probably think she's an Assad shill.
Scarred by the unimaginable horror caused by a single nuclear bomb dropped in 1945, 80 years ago. Yet this one bomb that caused so much destruction in Hiroshima was tiny compared to today's nuclear bombs. As we stand here today,
6 days ago,
closer to the brink of nuclear annihilation than ever before, political elite and warmongers are carelessly fomenting fear and tensions between nuclear powers. So it's up to us, the people, to speak up and demand an end to this madness. We must reject this path to nuclear war and work toward a world where no one has to live in fear of a nuclear holocaust.
This is the correct opinion, okay? I don't care who you are. Tulsi Gabbard is absolutely right. And then this is Trump's response.
Well, next time. You always said that you don't believe Iran should be able to have a nuclear weapon, but how close do you personally think that they were to getting one? Because Tulsi Gabbard testified in March that the intelligence community said Iran wasn't building a nuclear weapon.
I don't care what she said. I think they were very close to having one.
I got what's going on. You were at this beautiful scene.
Well, that was March, right? So in March, let's take a look at the calendar here. March was several months ago. They may have gotten new intelligence that they didn't previously have. But I think this is important to keep in mind. Our Director of National Intelligence, who's confirmed, duly elected into her position by our representatives, has stated publicly that she does not believe Iran was developing a nuclear weapon. Now, all of a sudden, and as of 2 months ago, which is only a month in between when she made the statement when Trump gave him a 60-day timeline, everything's changed. Now, Tulsi Gabbard hasn't come out and said anything at all, really, except for this video I just played for you 6 days ago. That's her most recent statement on these topics. That should get you thinking. It should get you thinking that maybe we shouldn't be involved in this, and that we're probably making a wrong turn here as a civilization.
For the meeting, and you said a lot about acquiring Canada as a state. What did anybody talk to you about that, and where are you now?
Much better deal from Canada, but
Oh my god, shut up, dude. Okay? No one cares about this Canada shit. It's so fucking stupid. Alright, so let's see.
We see the same reflected here.
This is a month ago.
When we have people who are working within the intelligence community who perhaps in some cases have become too detached from the impact of their work on those who are making life and death decisions for our country, and the potential to either go to war or to prevent war, as President Trump is trying to do on many fronts. And you have those who are co-opted by the military-industrial complex, abusing their position to feed or manipulate intelligence.
Yeah, I want to remind you, okay? I want to remind you of something that we talked about a little bit recently. I think it was in our last stream when all this stuff started up. Lindsey Graham, stocks. All right. This is Lindsey Graham's stock portfolio. He's invested in Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, General Dynamics, Lee Harris, Northrop Grumman. Okay? This is just him. So the point is, don't believe anything this fucking guy says. He stands to gain a lot by fomenting more tensions in countries where his children will never have to go and die. Okay? That's just the truth.
As we saw with the Iraq War, to start a new war. This intelligence community, the work that gets done in places like this every single day, has that power to be the fodder, the fuel, the seed that can lead to yet another unnecessary
You're
war.
overseeing the group that could cause it.
Yes.
Pete Hegseth overseeing the group that would have to do it.
Right.
And both of you are in very powerful positions in advising President Trump about the risks and rewards.
Right.
There was a New York Times article within the past month saying you, he, J.D. Vance, and his chief of staff, Susie Wiles, were all together in urging him to not go too far on our actions against Iran, that we should not give Netanyahu what he wanted by either participating in or boldly and robustly supporting Israel bombing Iran, that's a proxy for us, and there's no way we wouldn't be heavily involved. And that is not a position the United States wants to be in. And President Trump did not do it. He did not give Netanyahu the answer he wanted. I know you're not going to get into the specifics of what you advised the president, but can you explain your view of the dangers of barreling toward a potential conflict with Iran?
Yeah, the New York Times article was a result of an unfortunate, unauthorized.
See, I gotta add, because we don't pay attention to this foreign policy shit as Americans, we did not see this coming, even though we really should have. Most people did not see this coming. I didn't think about it. We were all, like a week ago, the only thing any of us were talking about were riots and all this other stuff. And now we're in this position, and it's like we were thrust here overnight. But really, it's been building up for 2 months. And Trump is the kind of guy where if he gets a ton of pushback on something, he will reverse course. So, especially when it comes from his base. So we really need to get on top of that and get that stuff cleared up. Okay, guys? We gotta be loud and annoying that we want peace.
And illegal leak of a very private conversation between the president and his advisors. I won't get it.
Or answers. I'm okay with answers. If you give me answers, I I can maybe make this make sense and justify it. But to me, this looks like we're on the verge of getting a false flag attack that sends our troops into Iran on a mission to do something impossible, you know, and 20 years later, we're still going to be over there.
Into the details, but it was a very robust discussion that really speaks to President Trump's care and thoughtfulness as he makes his decisions around these very serious issues of war and peace. You know, ultimately, what we are doing is providing the president with the facts, the intelligence. Here is what the intelligence is telling us. As the Secretary of Defense, here are the options that are on the table and the likely outcomes that could occur if you go with course of action A, B, or C.
Do you guys want to keep watching this? I don't think we're going to get any new information from this. I'm not going to lie. She can't really say anything further. We know where she stands on this. She, you know, I think it's okay to kind of move on. We've got some more quick, short statements.
President Trump has called on Iran.
Oh my God, never mind. This is a 14-minute video. We're not doing this right now.
Hello everyone, I'm Major Garrett in Washington. Welcome to The Takeout. President Trump huddled with his national security team this afternoon after an abrupt departure from the G7 summit in Canada. The topic, you guessed it, Iran. On social media, the president...
Yeah, we already covered this too, and this guy I find kind of annoying, personally, so I'm down to skip this as well. We need like, short bursts.
We've just learned that President Trump's Situation Room meeting on the conflict between Iran and Israel has just wrapped up. Trump says he wants to end Iran's nuclear activities. Let's bring in CBS News White House correspondent Ed O'Keefe, who's live for us outside the White House where that meeting took place. Ed, what do we know about the meeting in the Situation Room?
This guy was outside. He doesn't know anything.
It broke up about 20, 30 minutes ago. CBS News producers actually spotted
the only O'Keefe I stand is James O'Keefe.
In the West Wing right after it concluded. He was joined by, among others, the Vice President, his National Security Advisor and Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, the Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth, and Steve Witkoff, who is his special envoy to the Middle East. We now know, based on multiple sources, that among the topics discussed during this meeting was the big question of whether or not the United States should join Israel in military operations to essentially eliminate Iran's nuclear program, and whether or not specifically the location known as Fordow, which is that nuclear enrichment site inside mountains that would require 30,000-pound
is that how you say it?
Bombs to be used to destroy it, should be authorized for use in this situation. There is not agreement among the president's top advisors over exactly how to proceed. At least there wasn't.
Everybody pray that J.D. Vance stays strong and continues advising against doing some crazy shit over there. I don't know. At the same time, maybe if they just drop the fucking bunker bomb and get it over with, this will all be over the next day. You know what I mean? That's totally possible. It really is. I could almost flip a coin. You know what? Let's do it. Let's literally just do a coin flip. Are we going to be pro-war or nah? Heads is pro-war. Okay, we're fucking against this shit. This is bullshit. We need to not do nothing, okay? Look. Don't do anything.
Ahead of this meeting, and we're
that's always the right move. If you don't know what move to make in chess and you're not playing a timed match, you just don't make one. All right?
No word on that just yet.
I guess.
Earlier on Truth Social, the president
we decided
that he was back and certainly
we're against this shit
on what was going on, suggesting in a initial message that the United States, or he said, sorry, we have full operational control over Iran's skies, which immediately led...
All right, let's read this statement. I don't care what Mr. O'Keefe here is talking about. We now have complete and total control over the skies over Iran, Iran had good sky trackers and other defensive equipment, and plenty of it, but it doesn't compare to American-made, conceived, and manufactured stuff. Nobody does it better than the good old USA. All right. Well, okay, so we have control over the skies. Is there anything else we need to be made abreast of? Here we go. We know exactly where the so-called Supreme Leader is hiding. He is an easy target, but is safe there. We are not going to take him out. Kill! Jesus Christ. At least not for now, but we don't want missiles shot at civilians or American soldiers. Our patience is wearing thin. Thank you for your attention to this matter. I think he meant in this matter, but that's okay. Let's see. What else we got here?
Blew back last night that he wants a real end to the nuclear program in Iran and is not looking for a ceasefire between Iran and Israel, but a complete and total end of Iran's nuclear program.
And we know some of President Trump's biggest supporters do not want to see the United States enter a conflict with Iran. So how is the White House addressing political fallout from all of this?
Yeah, a notable message earlier today of support for the president from the vice president, J.D. Vance, using his personal Twitter account to,
what did he say?
in essence, say that the president has been amazingly consistent over 10 years regarding Iran and his belief that Iran should not have a nuclear weapon. So sort of...
I mean, that's true. I think there's like 30 minutes of video of Trump being like, they can't have a nuke. But, I mean, you know, nobody wants Iran to have a nuke. That's not exactly like... controversial, right? So let's see. Let's look at some of the comments here. Netanyahu is playing Trump like a fiddle. World needs peace. Agree. Big agree. We'll like that one. No, the USA shouldn't join the fight. We should impose high tariffs on ballistics. Yes, dude. I'm so in. That guy's hilarious. All right. Let's cut out of here. Let's head over to X. I want to get into this. We're live right now. We already know that. I want to take one more quick second because we're wrapping up soon. Just to say, hey, you know, we've got 47 viewers across all platforms right now, and I would like to see some subs come in on YouTube. It would mean an awful lot to me, you guys. It would mean a lot. It would really be helpful.
I don't know the population.
All right. It's a big deal for me. But I found that right before we started up, Tucker dropped this clip here. By the way, really quickly, I'm sorry I keep breaking this up. It's going to be youtube.com/Corbin Dauster. That's kick.com/Corbin Dauster, Dauster. And also on... what's the other one? On X, if you're watching somewhere else, it's Corbin Dauster on X. Okay, guys? So I'd appreciate if I could get your follows, your subs, your likes, and all that other stuff. I really appreciate it. You've been sticking around for a while, so I want to see you here.
How many people live in Iran, by the way? I don't know the population.
At all?
No, I don't know the population.
You don't know the population of the country you seek to topple?
How many people live in Iran?
92 million.
Okay. Yeah,
how could you not know that?
I don't sit around memorizing population tables.
Well, it's kind of relevant because you're calling for the overthrow of the government.
Why is it relevant whether it's, it's 90 million or 80 million or 100 million? Why is that relevant?
Because if you don't know anything about the country...
I didn't say I don't know anything about
Okay, what's the ethnic mix of Iran?
They are Persians and predominantly Shia. Okay, this is cute.
It's not even... You don't know anything about Iran. So
okay, I am not the Tucker Carlson expert on Iran.
You're a senator who's calling for the overthrow of the government.
You're the one who
don't know anything about the country.
No, you don't know anything about the country. You're the one who claims they're not trying to murder Donald Trump. You're the
I'm
one
not saying that.
who can't figure out if it was a good idea to kill General Soleimani, and you said it was bad.
You don't believe they're trying to murder Trump.
Yes, I do.
Because you're not calling for military strikes against them in retaliation. And if you really believe that...
We're carrying out military strikes today.
You said Israel was.
Right, with our help. I said we. Israel is leading them, but we're supporting them.
Well, you're breaking news here because the U.S. government last night denied, the National Security Council spokesman Alex Pfeiffer denied on behalf of Trump that we were acting on Israel's behalf in any offense.
Is serial killer Ted Cruz about to have his security clearance revoked?
No, we're not bombing them. Israel's bombing them.
You just said we were.
You meant the royal we.
It's high stakes. You're a senator. If you're saying the United States government is at war with Iran right now, people are listening.
Okay.
Yeah, they sure are. You gotta love Tucker, man. Well, that pretty much covers it, guys. I mean, we went over a lot. Oh, I wanted to go over this really quickly before we call it for the night. We have this possibly fake propaganda. This is from Iran, supposedly. Israel, please target Ali Khamenei. Motjabi Khomeini and the Islamic Republic's IRIB state broadcaster. Okay, so I find this difficult to believe, but the story here is that many young Iranians hate the Ayatollah. Here's the Iranian posting from Tehran. Okay, and the first comment here is, don't believe everything you see and read, and I agree. And then you've got a bunch of people calling for a regime change, which worked so well the last time we tried to do it. All right, so we have another ballistic missile base being destroyed. Yeah, I mean, we went into detail on everything, and I still don't know whether or not I support even the destruction of their nuclear facilities. It does seem like they were building nuclear weapons and that they're pretty close to them. That is what it seems like. Oh, is this true? June 16th, yesterday, seeking de-escalation signaled its willingness to resume talks for a nuclear deal. Let's see really quick. Look, I don't see anything saying anything like that. This is just random hullabaloo. Yeah, that's I don't see any of that, but all right. Well, look, guys, I appreciate you stopping by. This was a decent-sized news broadcast. We covered pretty much everything that there is to know about this conflict between Iran and Israel. We've got a lot of the details. I had a new outfit today. I'm a war correspondent now. So I'm glad we went over everything. I'm glad we have a better... Before, I was looking at this whole thing through a keyhole. Now I feel like that image is widened a little bit. I'm not going to be able to make a call one way or the other without more information being revealed. As of right now, we flipped a coin, so I'm totally against this conflict continuing. You know, in reality, this is not the kind of stuff where we should be involved at all. I don't want to see it continue. I want to see peace all over the world. I don't want people to be hurt. I don't want people's homes being destroyed, being displaced, having to evacuate, all this other shit. It doesn't matter which god you follow or how many gods you follow or where you follow them. I don't want to see this happen. You're going to see a lot of people over the next few weeks saying stuff like glass it. You're going to see people saying, you know, we got to save the Iranians from themselves. We have to do regime change. We have to do all this other stuff. The reality is, no, we don't. We don't have to do any of that. And in reality, what we could do is just focus on our own problems. We have such a ridiculous amount of debt. It's completely unsustainable, and that's really what we should be working on right now. I love you. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate you stopping by. Again, this is Corbin Dauster on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, you're already subscribed. Thank you. Give us a like. If you're not subscribed, make sure you subscribe. YouTube.com/Corbin Dauster. On Kick, you can follow. Eventually, we're going to be doing some more debates, or some debates. We haven't done anything yet. But eventually, we're going to do some debates, and when we do, I would like to see folks like you in the chat giving them a hard time and heckling them. If you want to sign up for the debates, all you need is a microphone and half a brain, and I will try to find somebody who also has half a brain to pair up with you. We haven't decided any topics yet, so if you want to debate on the show, just send me a message. I have my email. My email is pretty straightforward. It's corbindauster@gmail.com. Like I said, it's Corbin Dauster on everything, so send me an email. We'll get it organized and work it out. Let me know what topic you're really passionate about, because this is the kind of people I really want debating these things. Follow me on X. Follow me everywhere. Corbin Dauster. Thank you guys so much for sticking around and watching. I am glad that I was here to go through this. I had one hell of a set of debate prep for, or not debate prep, of show prep for you guys with all this Iranian shit. Thank God for ChatGPT for helping me sort all that stuff out, because I wanted to have a genuine, like, this is fresh knowledge for me. on all this stuff, and it really was for the most part, so that you could get my real reaction and thoughts on the fly. Yeah, that's pretty much gonna wrap it for today, guys. Thank you so much. Take care of yourselves, and you know, call your dad. Tell him I said what's up. All right, I'll be back sometime, probably tomorrow. We'll see what happens. Probably tomorrow. Later.